Hello, everybody. Today I want to talk about something that I experienced about 8 years ago um, that left an impact on me and my personal growth, and hopefully on the person I was talking to. So at that time, I had two or three jobs. I can't remember exactly in the timeline. I had multiple jobs, but one of them was teaching art to students after school. It was an after school program. And there was this one student in particular that had a lot of outbursts and temper tantrums, as you call them. Um, and there was one day where the other assistants were getting frustrated and they couldn't focus on teaching and stuff, and um, it was just the student was being too disruptive. So I volunteered to take that student to another classroom and just let them draw or something. Um, and given my experience through in late childhood and my teenage years, um, I could see a little bit of myself reflected in that student. Although for me, I became a recluse with the trauma. I hid away from the world, and it's still kind of my coping mechanism where I just seclude myself. But I could still see the pain in their eyes. Um, and of course, I could hear it in their voice when they had a temper tantrum and stuff. But so I took that student to the next room, gave them colored pencils and paper, um, let them start drawing, asked them if they wanted me to play some music. And I think I played some like chill electronic music on low or something, um, and let them draw for a little bit. And then, I sat there and thought, and I was like, I'm gonna talk to this kid. I'm gonna treat this kid as if they are one of my peers because I think this kid actually needs somebody to, connect with. Um, and I didn't know anything about their personal life, but I can tell that there was something going on in their personal life. You know, when you go through it yourself, it's very easy to detect. Um, so as a student was drawing, I started talking about my home life, and I told them, I was like, I'm gonna sit here and tell you some stories. You don't have to reply. You don't have to. You don't have to. Confirm nor deny anything. This is just me talking to you. Just listen if you want, or draw. You don't even have to listen, but I'm gonna talk. And so I sat them down. Well, they're already sitting. I started talking about some of the stuff I experienced, some of the trauma I experienced when I was growing up. Um, some may, consider this unprofessional, but I don't care about that. I don't care about unprofessionalism. I care about human connection. I care about helping other people. So I started telling the student about some traumas I went through. I kept it pretty vague because, they were still in elementary school. They were in fifth grade, to be exact. I think they might have been older than the average fifth grader, but I wasn't sure. But I told them about, some physical trauma, a lot of emotional trauma, um, some other trauma I won't mention here, a lot of neglect and abandonment, and just feeling of loneliness and not being loved. Um, and, like, I was just trying to get the student to understand that they weren't alone. Um, and I told them multiple times, don't speak if you don't want to speak. Don't share anything if you don't want to share it. This is just me, sharing some of my history with you. Um, and I wasn't sure if, me confiding in this student was going to do anything, but halfway through me telling the stories, a student put their pencils down and just sat back in their chair and just looked in my eyes and listened to every single word I said. I had their full attention. And at that moment, I was like, yep, my intuition was correct. The student is going through some shit at home. Um, and I didn't pry. I wasn't there to pry. That's not my job. Um, but I sat there and, just talked for a little bit. And at the end of it, I validated the student's feelings. I was like, whatever you're going through, whatever that makes you feel this way, whether you understand it or not yet, just know that, it is okay to feel whatever you're feeling. That's part of being human. Our emotions can be confusing things, especially at your age. I was like, it is okay to feel however you feel. I was like, the trick though, um, is to learn how to control how you act upon your feelings. Um, I was like, I know you don't like throwing temper tantrums and the whole class looking at you. I was like, I know you don't like it because it just makes you more upset and you run away and hide. Um, but I know in that moment that's all you feel. You feel that, overwhelming emotion. You don't know how to control it. And I said, that's fine. That's part of growing up. But one piece of advice would be, in those moments where you don't know how to act or how to control your emotions and you feel really mad or really sad, I was like, just come to one of us, come to an adult, tell us, hey, I need just a moment. I need to go cry. I need to go breathe. I just need to get out of this room for a second. And I was like, if you come to me, if I can, I will walk you out of this room because I understand. Um, like I said earlier, I was a recluse when it came to my emotions. I hid away. I know my personality changed drastically between middle school and high school. And for all of these people I went to school with, here's some insight as to why. But, you know, I'm trying not to give too much information, my first few videos, because I want to at least become something before I give all the juicy details. If this ever goes anywhere. Yeah, so I think, I told the student that, whenever they're ready, we can go back and continue in with the art activities, or we can just sit in there for the rest of the day because there's nobody using that classroom. And by the rest of the day, it was only a few-hour program. But that student ended up going back and, working with the class. I could tell in that moment, after that conversation with them, after that monologue I had with the student, that they felt understood. They felt there was just something in their demeanor that relaxed a little bit. And they went back and continued the art activities for the day. And then a few days later, things were busy. We were trying to get all these projects together, and they had another little temper tantrum, and they went and hid it in a cubby. Um, and I wasn't able to just pull them to the side, unfortunately, that day. I wanted to, but I couldn't. I had too much going on, and I think one of our assistants was missing that day. But they were in their cubby. They barricaded themselves in the cubby, and it was one of those things like, if they're gonna do that, just let them do that. There's no point in bringing them out and forcing them to do something that they're not in the right mind space to do. And then out of nowhere, this piece of paper just gets slapped on the side of the cubby from, like, hand reaches out and just slaps it. And the other assistant walks over there because she might know who she is if she hears this or if she sees this, but patience for a student going through some stuff was not her forte. But anyway, she walked over there and grabbed the paper and read it, and it said, like, no, nobody allowed except for Danielle. And then she just shows me and looks at me like, what the heck did you do? Anyway, if you ever see this is what I did. But, in that moment, I smiled a little bit on the inside. Not because the student was, going through whatever turmoil they were going through, but because the monologue I had with the student let her know that there was at least one person in that room that... Shit. Anyway, I was trying the whole entire time to do third person. Anyway, let them know. I'll pretend like it didn't happen. If you're a musician, you understand. Just keep moving forward. I let them know that there's one person in that room they could feel safe with. And I'm a big girl, so, it kind of also made me sad that that student didn't realize that there was no way I was fitting into that cubby. That's just me being twisted. But, yeah, so still to this day, 8 years later, I think of that student. I would imagine by now she'd probably be around 18 years old. I did it again, whatever. I already spilled the beans. Uh, who knows? It's 2025. I'll try to get back today. Uh, this is just me being myself. I'm a doofus. But yeah, I still think about them often and wonder how they're doing. If they made it, I don't know anything. They were in 5th grade, and unfortunately, that class was only for elementary schoolers. So at the end of the year, I didn't see them again. Um, but I wonder if they even remember that brief moment in their timeline, because I remember it often. But granted, I am an adult, and I was the one taking action in that moment. They were just listening. But I felt like, in that moment, much of the negativity I went through had purpose. And I connected to that student. And even if only for just a brief moment in their existence, they felt a little bit of relief and a little bit of understanding. It was worth it. And that's kind of what I want to do with this YouTube page, or if I switch from YouTube to do something else. I'm not sure where I'm going to take this, because it's such a little niche thing. Once I started interviewing people, which, as I said, I'm a recluse, um, I don't want people knowing where I live. Um, but I might start having a conversation with some friends if they want to be on camera. Um, yeah, I don't really know, but I hope that student is okay. I hope whatever they are going through, they overcame. I hope for the best for them, and I hope one day if they are okay, that they pay it forward. They connect to somebody. They make them feel as if they're not alone in the world. Um, and unfortunately, I haven't had many experiences to where I can say I've done that. Um, like I kind of touched on it in the first video, in the intro video. I worked a lot. Um, and in my downtime, I didn't really socialize. And when I did socialize, it wasn't my group of people. Um, I lived in a college town for a while, so a lot of those young adults I didn't click with for whatever reason. Um, I'm sure some of them had similar lives and most of them didn't, but either way, they were students and they were too busy to really stop and have those moments that I needed. Um, anyway, yeah, so moving forward, if you guys have any ideas of what I should talk about or how I should take this, because I thought about live streaming one day. Um, though with live streaming, you kind of need something in the background. So, I was thinking playing a really easy video game to where I can actually still think and do something. Um, but then I started looking through some live streams the other day, and there are some weird people on YouTube, and I don't know if I want to be caught up in that mix. I mean, it's not often that I'm looking through stuff on the internet and I'm fazed. And I was fazed by some of the live streamers. Um, I just put my phone down. I was like, oh, I need to take a shower. Um, but like I said, I don't know where this is going to go. This is just a mess. And hopefully I find some kind of direction to take. But if I live stream in the future, I might, bring in a friend or something and have a real conversation if they don't mind being on camera. Um, I have 2 friends I can think of right now that, pretty good at conversations. They could talk about some real stuff. Um, and I love having conversations with them. But that streaming, making more videos of me just sitting here chatting, I don't see how that's going to become popular. So yeah, if you got any ideas, let me know. I mean, I already had somebody request me to learn Bohemian Rhapsody on the recorder. I don't know if that's going to happen, but yeah, I'm just going to sit here and keep rumbling. So if you got anything, let me know. Uh, Yada, yada, yada. Grump says hi. Ciao for now.